First question, what is public speaking? We'll answer that. But let's look at the history. How did public speaking commence? First and foremost, public speaking is as old as man, because after the creation, man had to communicate. Man had to communicate within themselves, talk to family members, talk to clan heads and all of that. And so public speaking in itself is as old as man. You will understand why I say it's as old as man when we get to the definition of public speaking, right? And then we also had back in time what we had, the wandering families, those who were savages, so to speak, the wandering family of savages who moved from place to place. Stone Age, they communicated, and public speaking was the way to go. They talked to their children, they talked to their clan, they talked amongst themselves. You know, even when there was danger somewhere, they spoke about it, they expressed themselves. So that was one of the things, the early history of public speaking. And then it graduated to when we now started having small communities of clans and organized communities where people started settling together in places and calling themselves clans. And as it were, you know, a group of people migrate to somewhere, they settle in a farming settlement, or they migrate to a fishing port, they settle there. They had meetings, and in those meetings, they had people that represented each family, and they formed the clan head. So when they were discussing in those meetings, by whatever means, they were engaged in public speaking. So that's very important. The leaders communicated the desire of the clan to their family members and took the input from their family members back to the clan meetings. And so that in itself is a public speaking act. When you see in the traditional setting where the chiefs and elders in council with the Oba, with the Olori, with the king, with the Eze, whatever title they go by, when they're in that meeting, they're actually displaying public speaking. So public speaking is as old as man. Also, when you remember poetry in ancient times, that was public speaking. And someone will come in the village square and display poetry, entertain people. They were engaged in public speaking, right? When they did drama, they come out and speak before the public, the audience, and display some, you know, drama skills and all that. All of that were part and parcel of public speaking. So having said all of this, these are just highlights of how public speaking began to metamorphose from what it was from the early time up until now. We're going to come to very recent history, at least history that is on record. What I've shared with you is something from way back. So I'm going to bring it into context, into the now, something we have on record. And that takes us to the advent of modern public speaking. The advent of modern public speaking, where we were able to trace documented evidence of how modern public speaking started. The first is, of course, the ancient Greek. I'm sure some of you would have come across this information that the Greeks were very intellectual people. They were people that were always in the forefront of knowledge. They were people that always wanted to lead when it comes to intellectual issues. So the ancient Greek, they were the first to actually commence the modern public speaking. And they used it for three purposes, two basically anyways. The first thing they did was to persuade or praise others. So the Greek would use public speaking to eulogize people, praise them, to persuade them to do stuff. When they wanted them to get something done, they persuade the people using praise, talk to them about their qualities and all of that in public sphere, and it motivated the people to act in a particular way. That was one of the ways the Greek used public speaking. The second thing they did, they also used it to suggest or oppose laws, which was later called rhetoric. Okay, so when you hear the word rhetoric, it actually emanated from the Greek, and that was the method they used to suggest or oppose laws. Interestingly, it is the same kind of method that is used in the British Parliament today. Okay, so when you watch the British Parliament, what you see is an importation of what the Greek were doing back then, which is a way for them to oppose laws or to support or suggest a law. So they did quite a lot of that in Greek, and that was where public speaking became much more public, much more well-known, much more documented as a means of reaching out. So, and then thirdly, something I want to drop with us this hour, it's important to note that most public speaking teachers back in time were Greek. Most public teachers, speaking teachers back in time were Greek. So as at that time, they were so good at persuasion, the art of persuasion, the art of eulogizing or praising people, the art of either suggesting or opposing laws, to the point where they began to teach it. So maybe you may want to say, I'm a Greek from Greece. Okay, that's on a lighter note. And then it migrated from the Greek and then moved on to the Romans. So the Romans were the next world power. And because they were a world power, they began to use the methods they learned from Greek to invest in their governance. So the Romans used public speaking majorly in governance. And in one area they used it majorly was in their Senate, the Roman Senate. Public speaking was the order of the day in the Roman Senate. So when they want to say, do anything, they stood and they delivered publicly, and anyone who had a better argument swayed the opinion of the people. So the Romans used it in governance, and then they also adopted the Greek public speaking rhetoric methods and incorporated it into their leadership and into their governance. So when you look at modern day public speaking, you can trace it back to the ancient Greek and of course to the Romans. But don't forget, the ancient Greek, the reason you have the word ancient is to tell you that it emanated and originated from them. Modern public speaking can be traced back to ancient Greek. And of course, the Romans copied from the Greek whatever you see that they did and they are still doing today, which has, of course, grown to other parts of the world, because the Romans were the world power at a certain stage. And after the Roman Empire was conquered, a lot of the things that were taken from the Roman Empire began to spread into other parts of the world. And you have the Senate today in most parts of the world, which emanated from the Roman Empire, as it were, even into other parts of the leadership style that we have across the globe. So this is something I'd like for you to have at the back of your mind, because it will help you when you stand to speak. You understand the history of what you're doing and why it is important that you're learning this. So public speaking, teaching, or coaching didn't start today. It started from way back the days of the ancient Greek. So that being said, let us look at something Warren Buffett says that I think is of great interest to me and will be of great interest to you. I put it up on the slide there so you can look at it. I'm sure you can read through. It's very, very important. He said, now you can improve your value by 50% just by learning communication skills. And in communication skills, he specified public speaking. And he said, if that's the case, see me after class and I'll pay you 150,000 US dollars. Now, this was a response Warren Buffett gave to someone who was in a session he was handling that asked the question, what is that one big thing that if someone has would make a whole lot of difference? And he said to the young chap, if you can improve your value by 50%, you can do that simply by learning communication skills. And it was very emphatic. And he said to them, the communication skills you need to learn is public speaking. If you can do that, meet me after this class and I'll pay you 150,000 US dollars. Because for Warren Buffett, he believes that everything you do in life, you need public speaking. For you to convince your kids, you need public speaking. For you to convince management, you need public speaking. For you to close a sale, you need public speaking. For you to convince your husband, you need public speaking. For you to convince anything that listens, that hears, you need public speaking. You need it. You need to be good at it. You need to understand what is required and how it works, because it is a skill that you cannot do without. That is how important public speaking is. That is how important it is. So if it is an important skill, right, then why wouldn't you learn it? And for those of you who are here in this class today to get this knowledge, I think it is very important that you pay attention to a whole lot that we'll be sharing in this class today, right? Okay. I'd like you to just give me a moment. I think someone is trying to join the class. Let me see if I can admit the person right now. Okay, fine. I think I successfully did that. So I'm going to switch back to the slide. When you come, just settle in. That will be the last person I'll be admitting. Anybody that comes after now, I would not admit. The person will have to wait to watch the class in the Facebook group. So I'm going to switch back to slide. Please, I hope you do understand. Thank you. Okay, so what is public speaking? Big question. It's a presentation that is given live before an audience. Now, this definition is very critical, and I'd like you to pay attention to the words in color, right? Public speaking is a presentation that is given live before an audience. So you have two keywords there that we're going to play with for a bit. Note those two keywords. The first one is live. The second one is what? An audience. So you must have a live audience. I mean, you must be going live, and then you must have an audience. So what I'm doing right now is public speaking. And I'm going to tell you why it is. The first thing there is I'm live. I'm talking to you live. It's not a recorded session. I'm talking to you live. What I'm doing now is happening real time. It's not a tape that you're watching that was recorded 10 years ago. This is a presentation that's happening live. Mm-hmm. You might be all over the world, across the globe, watching me. Some of you are in the States, some are in Nigeria, some in Ghana, but we're all in this system right now. You're hearing me, you're hearing my voice live. It's not a recorded presentation. So what I'm doing right now is public speaking. Number two, I have an audience. And the definition of an audience when it comes to public speaking is that you must have two people involved in that discussion. Two people must be involved. So in public speaking, we have what we call a dyad. A dyad is communication between two. So if I'm on this end and I have somebody on the other end, then it is called a dyad. That means that there's communication going on between two of us, all right? So above two people is a big audience you have. So the moment you are discussing or you're presenting to one or more people, then you should know that, okay, someone said they are not seeing the screen. Oh, sorry. Let me get back. Let me get back to the screen. All right. We should know that you are engaged in public speaking. So you must have an audience and you must be presenting live. It's not a recorded presentation that is on the tape or DVD or whatever other device you may have. But it's something that is done live before an audience. Whether it is through Zoom, whether it is through Facebook Live, whether you must have an audience and you must be doing it right on that time, real time. So that's what defines public speaking. So note this, it's important that this is just about presentation that is given live before an audience. That's what public speaking really is. So you can see why it is important in business, in relationship, in life, in every other sphere that you may be engaged in.